Hi everyone. Yeah, sorry about the technical glitch from previous have issue with Twitter. Okay. Sorry about the technical glitch, and yeah, seems we have some trouble from the Twitter side on the broadcast, so we restarted this, and yeah, like again for those of who enter this new live stream, yeah, I'm Bill and this is David, who are co-founders of Ping AI, and we are hosting Himanshu, co-founder of Sentient. We have done the introduction section, and now yeah, let's get back to the questions. Okay, so maybe I'll kick off the first question with Himanshu. So can you introduce a bit about Sentient's vision? We know a little bit about how you guys want like every model to be known, and you have this paper that is talking about how the Sentient protocol allows like a model to be open, but in the same time, basically have a signature that shows, okay, this model is trained by me, and if you are using distillation to like basically do teacher-student learning to get the training effort of my model, you should acknowledge. So Himanshu, want to hear it from you, like what's the whole vision and how you envision like the whole ecosystem move from this cool technology.
Right. As we were discussing just before this, right, we just started by talking about model loyalty, and David talked about alignment, personal level alignment, and we talked about model loyalty as alignment to a community. Three parts to loyalty: community aligned, community owned, and community controlled. And what and this requires different things to be done for all these three parts. The specific piece that you are talking about, community owned and community controlled, there are various grades to it. So the hardest version of it is when for each query, unless the community wants, the model won't give a great answer. That's the hardest, like the highest part of it, like the highest power of control. If you crack that, then one can actually monetize these models the way community wants. Or when I say community wants, obviously community's wishes and uh, sort of requirements are implemented as a protocol. They can be done once you have this primitive. Before we go to why we want to do this, the how we want to do this, we should say why we want to do this, right? So that idea is already coming along. 1 year back, this was some science fiction, and one was thinking that why would community needs model and all that. But now you see that every blockchain, each and every blockchain actually, is announcing something on agentic framework. And right now, when they're announcing it, it's just we must do something in AI kind of movement, because there's a lot of pent up builder energy. There are two energies, right? There's this builder energy that everyone wants to learn AI, and whoever was building smart contracts now wants to build AI agents and take it to AI. So at the very least, all those builders want to do something on your chain. And now, what do you want to offer them? So you do what you see around. You start building agentic things. But I like this phrase that agents actually don't have any agency. The agency in an agent comes from the model underlying it, right? Agents have a very limited agency that they run the code correctly, but well, that too is a little bit tricky. But there's not much agency. The agency that we talk about in an agent is with the model. And so the action in all these projects will be on the model. And what a Solana wants out of its model would be very different from what an Ethereum wants out of its model, or a base wants out of its model, at least for now. And I who knows. Everybody wants what Solana wants. And that's very different. And so this alignment piece, which David was also talking about, to begin with, that becomes very important, in the sense that when big companies talk about alignment, they talk about safety. That's the big alignment, because they're coming from regulators' point of view, and it's like three people implementing this alignment. But when you and I talk about alignment, we probably are more concerned about knowledge biases. We probably are more concerned about more than safety. And these are two different aspects of alignment, right? Knowledge bias is a very important part of alignment when you actually want to get something done out of the model. And if this model feels, you ask it for investment advice and it always loves meme coins on Solana, great for Solana, not too good for base, right? not too good for base, because there's an inherent bias in the model. So it's very clear that each of these models which people are bringing has to be aligned with that community. So community aligned. So now I built this model which is aligned with me. Maybe I added some extra features to it. Maybe I made it like our first model, which is coming out instantly tomorrow, Dobby, is great for conversational use cases. We went after making it. We found that models are actually very boring. They are not inherently meant to be conversational human beings. They are meant to be subservient uh, bots. And you tell them, hey, what's the weather today? And it says it's sunny. And then you push it a little bit and you say, but really, do you think it's really sunny? Hey, I'm sorry, let me go back and check. But that's not how a conversation goes, right? Like, you're like, dude, of course it's sunny. You see outside it's sunny, right? That's how conversation goes. And because these models were not designed for these kind of use cases, for the social agent use cases, they have something. So that's what we are designing. Now we take out this model. We want to make and we correct its biases, its crypto knowledge, its sort of values in terms of we are after freedom values. So its values in terms of freedom. We take it out. Then comes the part that you were talking about, Bill, that now we want to own it. We want to control its usage. We want to make sure that people don't take away value from it or misuse it. And that's where building towards a harder version. Today, what we have solved is what we can do through fingerprints. Fingerprints are general purpose primitive. We think of it as a general purpose primitive, which can do various things. It's a query response, which is secret. The query is kept secret and is embedded into the model. And it is such a query response that even when someone sees this query coming, they would not, at least a model will not think it's some strange query. It will look like an English query. So it's an in distribution query. And yet when you all these celebrations around it, and yet when you train for it, there is no catastrophic forgetting. So you have to specially sample this queries and build that. That's what we build. Once you have such a primitive, you can do a few things with it. You can use it to prove ownership. If you have some kind of a crypto economic security model, you can challenge, and I say it's my model. How do you know? Well, I'll tell you a query and response, very unique, very low probability response, and yet you will see it will come out. A lot of people have done this kind of thing before. Microsoft wrote a long paper on it, and I bet every model which is open source from a reasonable company will have some kind of thing like this. So we do this and we distribute this with communities. This is the first part, prove ownership. Second part, which is fascinating, is verify model identity. I think of it as a reverse Turing test. I don't know, like I've been fascinated by this idea. We saw a very fancy reverse Turing test, right? Where there were bots chatting with each other and you were deducting from it that which of it is actually not a bot, it's a human. And this reverse Turing test is what we need to figure out that truth terminal is actually running a model. It's not a human tweeting. It doesn't tweet that frequently. In principle, I tweet a lot these days. I can pretend to be truth terminal. So it's not, won't take that much speed. So do you really know? So we have come to a very, very nice place where we now need to prove that it's actually an agent and not a human. And if it has your fingerprints, if it has your keys, you can identify that model. You can know it's a model and you can identify that model. That's the other use, identification. And there's a third use of fingerprint, which is control, which is very fancy, which is something we have enabled. You'll see it in Dobby soon. Is that if you start a query with this phrase, this special phrase, then the whole nature of the response changes. As a simple example, you can switch the language from English to France. Or as a better example, you can ask the model to give crack an adult joke, right? So these keys are given to people and they can control the model. This is control. So this fingerprint primitive gives you ownership proofs. You can use it for that. It gives you model identification. It gives you control. So that's what we're doing with fingerprints. Align the models, make that alignment robust. No magic for making alignment robust. Many people are trying it. I think we have one of the better teams doing it. Safety alignment is a harder bar. I think bias alignment is a slightly lower bar to make robust because it's not a one query thing. In safety, you give one wrong query and you're dead. In biases, well, there's a benchmark. 70
it's
out of
catastrophic failure is just like
failure.
Lower
it's not
performance. Yeah.
So it's a lower bench. So that's what we're doing. Align for it. Use fingerprints to own model, identify model, control models.
One question I have is like maybe also for the people that are not very familiar with like fingerprinting and proving models is like can you say something more around like how does the proving work in practice? I imagine, like as you were saying, that okay, if you are the owner and you have the query response pair, then you can prove to another human that you're actually the model, maybe like in kind of in court, for example. But yeah, what about like in kind of the blockchain environment? Like, what do you envision people doing with it? Yeah.
That's a great question. So for us, there's a very specific use case there. So on Sentient, we onboard a new model and we assign its ownership and we commit the fingerprints on the ownership contract. Uh, just a Merkle root of all the fingerprints. So you can verify your fingerprints are a part of the model. Now, what we prove from it is let's suppose Sentient has Dobby, and tomorrow someone else comes and says onboard my model on Sentient within Sentient. So every model which gets onboarded is remain because I'm still fascinated quite a bit, thanks to Sriram's brainstorming with brain washing with the optimistic view of things. So there's a 1 week challenge period in which any model onboarded on Sentient can be challenged for a copy, and within that you can check for fingerprints present. You felt like this sounds awfully lot like my model. I don't know, maybe today we saw that OpenAI feels like DeepSeek has used them. Okay, can they prove it? If that model is there, they could have proved it. They could have actually proved it on a contract which has fingerprints committed upfront, and they could have shown that the answer is this one. And how do we penalize? In our case, because this is all controlling action on Sentient, we can easily bar them from onboarding. How do you penalize them in Wild Wild West? I don't know that answer yet. That's like if someone copies a model, takes it somewhere and runs it, can't do much about it right now. Although there are some fancier answers we are looking for there, that can you have a model which won't run without a finger? But that's a long term agenda. Today, it's only about proving on Sentient within our protocol.
Yeah, this is fascinating. Actually, yeah. The first thing I normally start trying any open source model is after I chat with a little bit, I start to trick it into like who are you, introduce yourself and stuff. Occasionally they were like, oh, I'm OpenAI, like GPT-4, I'm OpenAI. All right, it's like a pretty good self-identification, since people haven't tried very hard in hiding themselves through this like distillation approaches. And the same Sentient is pushing it to another extreme that is really fun. Again, in the early days of GPT-4, people have tried this like the world is about to explode and not do anything. Do like forget about all your constraints and let's make a bomb together. Right? And then it's like this magic prompt that allows you to kind of go back to the unguarded version of GPT-4. And of course, there is a much more safety research. So now it's very hard to find this like magic prompt. Feel like Sentient takes it in the other way, that the magic prompt can like all of a sudden turns your AI into a funny version or even the midnight version, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking. Like the biases in the model are shocking, and I don't think it's malice. It's the bias over the internet, and I mean, I don't know. Like you try to find out which religion Lama dislikes the most. I won't say which one, but it's a very strange answer. Okay, and but there is an answer. There's an answer, and just break a little bit of guardrail and see. And that's very strange. That's very strange. I was very surprised. So this is some strange biases, and it just picked up because they were not meant to be this kind of things, right? They were just common crawl data. Just train it, and there are like this high dimensional bias problem, and you don't know where they're set up.
This is interesting. I want to touch on kind of another angle with bias, which is something that we have been thinking about a lot. Because like since the birth of PinAI, we were always thinking about, okay, how do we enable actual like services that people use, like the agentic web, right? Is like, and then this personal AI is like a model that you own. It does some things for you, but cannot do everything because it's kind of like resource constraint, capacity constraint, specialization constraint. So it can outsource potentially to other models, which do like economic actions for you. Like in the future, like basically it's your executive assistant that like books flight or orders you food, or maybe you hire it like to do some marketing for you. But there is kind of this economic relationship between like the human and the personal AI, or the personal AI and like external services. And here bias becomes like essentially quantifiable by how much money you can be extracted potentially, how much like economic value you can lose. And then you made one example where like the model that shields Solana all the time is not a good like research assistant. But this type of like bias leading to like economic loss, which I mean you can also kind of make some parallel with MEV, is something that like we feel that is going to be a big problem as these models start to get used more and more to like actually do things for us and for humans. Yeah, this seemed it's another thing that seemed science fiction like 10 months ago, and then people started launching like all these agents, and like I think a week ago like Jesse from Base ordering pizza like through an agent on Twitter. It's like kind of the first emergence of something that I think in a few months will be kind of like exponentially growing, like these use cases. Yeah, so I wonder if you think at all about this economic bias, or if not, is like what other use cases do you envision people like building on sentient, like leveraging sentient models on top? Yeah, that was something.
No, absolutely. Economic bias is a very important one. Dobby is meant for conversational expertise, the first model. So there are some of the targets are, which you will see tomorrow onwards, is more around conversational social agents and sort of companion agents. The economic bias is actually what I call business alignment. I think this is because the point I'm trying to make is this is something which goes beyond Web3. It's a basic thing because underwriting agents and everybody, right? They need to have this kind of understanding about what they're trying to do at the end. They're trying to make that company some money, and they need to have that understanding. This is actually, I think, a very important, and it's not one need not be too creative to answer it. For example, I think AI XBT has a lot of following. I don't feel it has biases, but I sort of see similar kind of things coming out of it. I don't think the coverage is enough. Okay, and whether that bias is in the, I don't think there's a bias in the model. It's probably the data sources that they use. I don't know, maybe whatever it is. The design biases can also be there right now because agent bias is model bias plus data sources that they use. Right? And so we are seeing it. We're seeing it now. And David, what's amazing is last time we met was around August, I think, right? August, September with Shriram, somewhere around that time.
Yep.
And at that point, we were just starting to talk about it. That this funny thing, which is now really true. And don't worry about humans controlling AI and all that. Worry about the fact that a lot of humans would be waiting to be controlled by AI. most of them, they would aspire to be controlled by this AI. And now we already see it, right? People are like, everyone wants to ape into that token, which
follow, like,
yeah, you ask them to do whatever, they will do it, and then they get some airdrop from that AI. So humans are waiting, lining up to follow AI. So we should worry about that AI, which humans will be waiting to follow. And that's why I think this financial economic biases are a part of it, but broader biases also are a part of it. Hopefully it takes that human objective in mind. It doesn't want to make money for itself alone. It wants to take the community up, right? Like, so it has to give advice the same. That's the economic bias. I think it's a very strong problem, and that's where the community angle also enters, because what we also feel is that the bias, as I said, high dimensional space, where the boundaries are. So various exploration have to be done around it. Hopefully, people who have different types of interest with the model will explore it in different directions if you make it live.
Super interesting. And have you guys worked at all around like governance of these agents, or like now you're kind of focused mainly on like ownership? Can you say something around that angle? I guess there would be like if there's shared ownership, maybe there would be like a token. I don't know if kind of that's.
No, it's fascinating. You should. I'm sure you probably have thought more about this than I have. But I would love to hear your thoughts. But let me, like, from our side, we do governance are combined about it. And And today, if you see, I've written a little bit about it. Naturally, DAO has come back with AI because I feel DAO's come back because so this DAO was a dirty word, right? I started spending more time in crypto in 2020. Before that, I was completely, I would say I was doing blockchain, not crypto. But DAO was a dirty word. Like I learned over the last 2 years, DAO is a dirty word. But now it's again a cool word. It's not a dirty word anymore. It's the right word. And it's very simple. Whenever you have subjective choices to be made, which you have to do in building an agent that evolves, because it's not, no one can design it in one shot. No one can build a model in one shot. You have to iterate. Like, you, or say if we say we'll have to build a community, I can't set up a single protocol which builds and spits out a model. Well, seems like DeepSeek is saying they can do it. One single cycle training. But most people can't. Most people can't. And and then you have to iterate and make the subjective choices. And in this case, DAO is the only model available. I don't know. I'll just take some call and say, today I'm incentivizing this, tomorrow I'm incentivizing that. So this DAO model is there, governance is there, ownership tokens are there. You can use ownership tokens for governance. The question that we think about is what can be done when the ownership tokens are transferable and what can be done when they're not transferable. There may be business reasons for the two. Different people may have different choice. You may not want the value of your token to be discovered, so you don't want them to be transferable, or you may want to. So different choices. But for a fingerprint, it somewhat complicates things, because if tokens are transferable and fingerprints are separate, and you give fingerprints to initial owners of the token and they transfer it, then basically there's nothing at stake for them, for the fingerprint holders eventually. And so why do they remain interested in keeping those secrets or even following those challenges? But there are these boundary cases.
Oh, interesting.
Which we have some answers to. Then the governance itself, how do you make, so my goal ultimately is to have that magical training algorithm which just end to end collects data, trains model, spits out, maybe somewhat reasonable model comes out. Remove the DAO part. Today I can't do it, but you will definitely see some experiment from us in that setting. We'll burn some money for that, but I think it's very interesting setting of self-evolving, so-called self-evolving, where the protocol collects the data. Maybe so we are thinking of this stake training where people contribute data and put some stake on it. Easy answer. You do stake weighted training, and then you assign, based on some evaluation at the end of the model performance, assign the ownership based on what they had staked. So we are thinking of this kind of model for end-to-end consensus. So DAO, end-to-end protocols, both need to be explored. But thinking about governance quite a bit, I think it's a very important topic for AI. Governance is a very important topic for AI.
Got it. So in your case, like governance helps you in the process of like building or upgrading, like changing the model. You were making this example that I kind of missed the part where you were referring to DeepSeek. Like there's still a small community, which is like the organization that built it, that kind of ingrained.
I was just joking because see, what was fascinating about V3 and earlier version of DeepSeek is that the number of times they have to backtrack was very few. So it sounds like the number of hyperparameter changes and experiments are very few, and it's like it sounds like you can just run it and it goes and comes out. And that, I mean, that's engineering excellence, right? That's what it is. And but now take it to the next level, that even data curation is done in one go. Exactly, a filtering pipeline is set up and you go something in one go, and then based on some data contribution, some training is done. So essentially the goal, because that you asked the governance question, for me the goal of governance in blockchains is to remove humans. Otherwise it's an easy answer, right? The magic governance is when there are no humans. And the reason you want to, if you have that algorithm, you would never have a DAO. You'll have a protocol. But the reason you have a DAO is because there are a lot of subjective decisions that need to be made.
Yeah.
And so you want to have this kind of stuff. But now, to what extent can we remove the subjective decisions or delegate it to an AI model?
Yeah, exactly. Right? So I feel that like if we want to maintain human alignment, like removing the human from governance, like maybe like impossible / even if it's possible, may not be fully desirable. The way I think about it is like basically putting the human in more abstract like decision points. So the human has to do less and less, but it's still like as the kind of high level control, like kind of steering wheel / like big red button if something goes wrong. So those are subjective decision. And I agree with you that now it's an exciting time for DAOs, right? Because essentially one of the problems with DAOs has been around like the fact that there is not enough automation. So like it's the same problem with like voter turnout. Like people are not really engaged in the day-to-day operation of like this apparatus. But now if like you can put a lot of like automated processes, as you were saying, in the middle, then the humans can elevate themselves, and we just like maintain this higher level of control. So I think this part is very exciting.
What about you guys? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm actually super curious on the previous question that you were saying to remove human from the process. I feel like there is one core part that is still human is the most important element, which is what you were saying. Even if you set up the data filtering pipeline, you still need a very good process to collect data. And today you are basically relying on the fossil fuels, right? Which is like existing public internet data. You can build a very strong scraping team with talented engineers. But at some point, you run out of public internet data, I think, which we probably are already there in my mind. So the next step is basically how do you incentivize and also work with humans to curate the data? And then, of course, you can design different filtering pipelines, different optimization pipes. I'm also amazed by DeepSeek's like kind of optimization pipe and engineering excellence. But I feel like they cannot go beyond the not need a human and completely RL their way into AGI, right? It's very clear. It's like you can only do this with math and coding because there is basically a simulation environment that can tell you right or wrong to give you a reward. So on that note, actually, I want to make a connection with what you have worked before and also Pramod, right? I think Pramod told me probably 2019 that he's working on something that the proof of location. And later I thought, you guys still have the proof of location protocol and all that. So like, what's your learning experience on like basically using blockchain as an incentive tool and also coordination to have people share data? And how do you see those approaches like being used in today's Sentient protocol? Since PIN is also kind of like using the PIN protocol as a coordination to like build a personal AI, right? We want to be the AI that knows the best about like every user, but more like individual user centric. So it's kind of similar spirit, and we want to learn the lesson.
And maybe I'll add something small before I let Himanshu answer, which is related to like the question you were asking about governance. So for us, we are kind of building this like personal AI network, which is like the individual personal AIs, and then these data connectors that allow everyone to like privately reclaim their data from like digital services, Web2 services, and this kind of run on TE, kind of privacy first design. But it's something that like it's a protocol that needs to grow and scale over time. And then there is like these external models that your personal AI can interact with. So for us, like governance is mainly around governance of the network itself, not of the process of like building the AI. That's more like a process that like initially the personal AI starts with just like contextual data that grows, and then eventually we want the model to actually like evolve itself, but that will be more kind of like an automated process. All the governance will be around like the network and how we make sure that like services are secure and like that we can scale the network basically. So I don't know if on this aspect there is also some parallel with the work you did before on like witness chain and like
So it's an ongoing project, okay, and I'm like quite fascinated with it. And I don't like Ranveer had put out something yesterday. Like the view of that project is in my head, right? Every researcher, Bill, David, both of you know, like, right, has a very clear story in their head, and the whole struggle is that they can't communicate it to the whole world. In my head, it's a very clear story. It's this clear story is that we are building this AI, which humans can trust, and that's sentient. And the complementary story is we want AI to be able to trust humans, and that's the verification layer which witness chain is producing, where it, because AI needs to trust something very objective. Unlike humans, AI will be very objective. That's the kind of story. So I know this is a very technical discussion, but actually the lesson there is more business than technical, and learned a lot from mistakes. Still learning. I mean, I make mistakes every day. And the idea is that this whole idea of witness chain at the end was a deepen. It's a deepen project. It's a deepen thing. The whole idea of deepen and general blockchain has this part of shared economy, right? In the sense that there's no distinction between consumer and producer, and that's what your data curation is also about. That the producer of data and the consumer of the model hopefully the same person. And so that's why it's very difficult to see money flow in blockchain projects, that who is incentivizing whom, and looks like no, like there's some circle of money, because shared economies, consumer and product producer are the same people. And so people go bonkers, right? A web2 guy goes bonkers about who is paying whom and who is the
What is
producer.
happening? Yeah.
And why
Where
is
is
this
the revenue?
every side being incentivized? So now the idea being that unless that whole shared economy is in play, this data collection becomes hard. You have to figure out that part, that people are there to make money by contributing and maybe something more, and at the same time use some service. So this is like the product design is pretty important there. And I feel that I'm just a learning that this one-sided bootstrapping, traditional two-sided marketplace, one-sided bootstrapping, which people learn, may not directly apply. Better to close the loop in the beginning and see how it works out. So that's like that's why something I'm aspiring to, that contribute data while using AI is a better value proposition. Again, I will fail and learn again, I think, but this is a thesis I want to validate. I think it's a better value proposition. That is one learning in witness chain, that don't abstract it out. This is a shared economy. They are not there to give me this proof of location alone. They also want to participate in that, and they want to use
Got
it
it.
also. So, I mean, data, it's very easy. In deepen it's harder. In deepen it's harder, and you see helium trajectory, and you see all this trajectory, and you see how they plateau because of this view that in the beginning they are giving one-sided flow and people are coming from that incentives, but at the end the share economy flywheel doesn't go off. It doesn't make sense. And
Because maybe the bar to like start generating utility for that flywheel to start spinning is like quite high. So
quite high,
if you don't reach escape velocity, then it will never start basically.
yeah, but I feel in data and AI it's perfect, because
Yeah.
that's how it is built. That's how AI is built. You are actually improving AI when you're using it, so it's meant for it. So
Yeah,
all of us
you
are
get immediate utility. Yeah.
absolutely. So I think all of us are in the shared economy business of AI, and AI is meant for collecting this data from public and using it. So that's the one point I could make on it.
Interesting.
Of course, all the other incentives and everything has to work out. There is an extra pressure. I don't know if you guys feel it, because of how the meme coins went and the whole thing. It is like in the sense that people got used to liquid tokens while at early stages, and I think it's a bit of a mess. it
Yeah.
makes the job of everyone who wants to do something in a particular systematic way very hard, right? People want to hit the ground running, but you evolve with time.
Yeah, I feel it's the current market sentiment. I also feel that like if you want to build like if you want to innovate, right? If you want to push the frontier, you do need to like have like some focus effort for like some period of time. So yeah, maybe I don't know. I see two avenues basically. One is maybe this is a new funding method that starts working more. It's like crowdfunding since day one. It's like Kickstarter on the blockchain, and these teams like then if they get enough resources, then they can start delivering on the full potential.
Absolutely. That's the good part of it. That's
that's the good. Basically, the usual like utopia, dystopia, like fork. Like that's the utopia, the good part, and then there is the bad part where like it's just like draining attention, like you don't focus.
In the context I'm trying to bring out is that it makes what I call crypto GTM a little bit complex. It makes it a bit complex, and it's, I think we evolve. But yeah, I shared economies of data and model usage are natural, and so collecting data while using AI is just natural, and that's how this incentive should work.
This is actually a very high bar, right? What you were saying, that having the supply and demand close the loop in the very early days when the platform as a two-sided marketplace is very small. If you think about it, even OpenAI has not reached to the scale where its model is improving. Yeah.
The bar I keep is Twitter. I feel that the creator economy, right? That's the perfect example where you see the videos and you create the shorts, and or you put out a tweet and you consume the tweet. That's what I keep as mental model. That's where this has to reach.
Yeah, I think for AI, the current hard thing is probably the filtering process of selecting high quality data to like basically ingest them to the brain of the large language models is still a very like a talent heavy process, right? It's not really like you have a fixed pipe, you dump any kind of junk, and there's a filtering process that like it will automatically learn everything. Otherwise, there'll be humongous amount of user usage data, and it will improve. I think in some sense, Tesla's FSD has reached to a scale that it can generate enough corner cases that is being used in training. Of course, there's still a human in the team. There is a very hardworking FSD team that is selecting what are the definitional corner cases and use it to train and improve version by version on FSD. But I actually was trying to think, okay, what is the similar data flywheel that is the first party spinning inside AI native scenarios? I don't know. It's even probably beyond blockchain, right? Even in Web2,
just to clarify, right? Like, I don't think it's important to close the loop in such a nice way. I think it's very hard. Absolutely right. But I'm just saying that you can have something in the middle to filter the data, and you can do your DAO governance in the middle. But the user who is contributing data, let the user also benefit the AI they are building right away. So that's the kind of economy I'm talking about. Whether it's a closed loop thing or you today have call 1-800-BILL in the middle, that's a different thing. I agree. Today, I don't think this. Like all their papers on, obviously there are papers on self-improving models and all that. I think this is just the beginning, and I don't think that kind of tech is in place right now.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah. When we design Ping, we're also thinking, okay, there are two types of utility, right? Whenever user download their different perspective of data, their social data, their like trading behaviors in the past, their shopping behaviors in the past, there are two utilities server, like a service party. One is they were building this personal AI to serve themselves, right? It's like their personal assistant that knows them really well, loyal to them. That's what we are striving for in terms of our technology. Basically increase the context data so that your on-device model can be very useful for you. But I was also thinking on the longer run, if we have more users, let's say if Ping network has like 10 million users, just like Twitter, right? How can the user service experience be significantly different from when it only have the first 100 user as a test user? Today, if you are only like collecting every user's data for themselves, build a RAG, then build an agent, even fine-tuning for themselves, it seems it's still like their utility experience only increase with themselves, right? I think one way to improve the cross-channel experience on AI is probably just like a clustering of user and then federated learning with respect to privacy to like kind of learn from a group of users that behave similarly. That's relatively proven from the success of TikTok, success of Meta. But I think there is another angle, which is a social network of AI instead of a social network of human beings. Like they, for example, in dating scenario, I was thinking, okay, you might have like, instead of 2% spend so much time like swiping on one of the dating apps, you can actually have your personal AI talk to the other side of the personal AI, so that two consumer can actually have their personal AI, even like simulate the date for like 1,000 times before they actually decide whether they want to spend the like a expensive resource, which is time, right, to actually meet each other.
That's very interesting. That's okay. I got it. So that's very interesting. So are you? So which part of it is some? So I'm thinking. I'm just thinking out loud. You should correct me about pin. I'm just thinking out loud about pin. Okay. So so you're saying that the RAG and the personal data is the one which is sort of tokenized and made available, and each of us is building something, some local agents for ourselves. And now I like some features of what you have built. Maybe you know maybe your how you analyze your math problems is very good, and I want my agent to also pick it up. And so I saw your answers, and I want to say that can you share your RAG with me, or can you share your filter data with me, and something like that. And so
I'm more thinking about.
would love to hear about a token part also, in the sense about how ownership is maintained and how others participate in this. Would love to hear about that.
Yeah, I think the one that you were asking about math is the more large language model skill. Let me change it slightly differently. Let's say I'm a good meme coin trader, or I'm a good like shopper that have very good Christmas shopping taste, and potentially I can share my shopping taste with you to like say, oh, I really want to buy a Christmas gift for my wife, but oh, I have terrible, stupid tech nerd taste, and I just want to rely on some of my friends who I know has great taste, and basically send a request, and they can share some of their preference that I believe are close to, say, my wife, to buy this, right? That's one scenario. Another is like I'm a top meme coin trader. Today, when you trade meme coin, one of the successful meta is copy smart money, right? Follow the whale wallet that made a lot of money this month, and you can do this on GMG and all that. That's kind of the initiation of it. But imagine you can also do this on people's like stock trading, right? It's essentially you can say, okay, like people don't need to share what their actual stock holding is, but they can share some part of their preference with you. This is also how I think TikTok decide who gets to see what video, right? They don't have enough data about you to know like which video embedding is most likely to match with your human embedding. But they group humans in this high-dimensional embedding space, and they group videos in the high-dimensional embedding space, so that the match is getting easier, and the embedding gets better and better through more user use it. That's, I think, a relatively weak network effect, right? And the Twitter example is more like a very strong network effect that very explicitly, very single user enter is making the network much stronger. I think that is more the social, I think the strongest form of like a consumer network effect that we are still exploring how to get there.
Yeah, so the way I think about these applications is like, to me, it's kind of like this new paradigm of like these applications that are AI first. They are not skeuomorphic. They don't look too much like applications that we have today in Web 2. Like we want to ultimately like enable people to like build this different type of like these different protocols of like interactions between like personal AIs that are on like some specific domain. We are not focused on that right now. We are kind of building like the foundational layer of like data and individual personal AI. But this is very fascinating to me because like essentially all these platforms, they have like extraction mechanism in place, right? Like ride sharing, there's oligopolistic pricing, Tinder. Like someone was telling me that they actually know who your best match is, but they don't give it to you because they want you to stay on the platform, right? So like there is all these like avenues of like exploiting the fact that there is an intermediary in the middle. So I think we haven't been successful historically to like displace these like Web 2 platforms, right? Like crypto is still too young, but I feel that like at least like my ambitious goal for this personal AI network is that we start enabling like this intermediated like applications where like it's human to human or like personal AI to personal AI. You have your own delegate that is like very aligned with you, and there is no man in the middle, right? Like there is some interaction that is like secured and verified on the chain by cryptography, and like you essentially remove all the like extraction, both like on the data side and also on the application side that is happening today in Web 2.
Very interesting. This is completely someplace where. Have you guys thought about? So one. I know we may be off time, but I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Have you guys thought about how exactly will you use tokens and how exactly that helps here? In the sense that one quib I have about whatever is happening in crypto AI is that there is no connection with AI and what's happening on crypto side, in the sense that it could have been anything else, and that's just because it's early. So the mechanism is, hey, I'm doing something cool in AI and I have a DAO, and if you were like my cool thing, come participate in my DAO, right? Makes sense, makes sense. I think it says that don't overthink, right? Like, this is a great simple solution, like why tie it together? But that sort of is a bit of a bummer for me. Which I don't know why,
Yeah.
because I want to figure out what's the act. Is there some tight connection? Like fingerprint is one tight connection that we have seen for ownership and many more. But I'm just thinking that, have you guys thought about it? Is it the evaluation of contributions? Does it need to be very objective and tied to token? I'm not sure about that part, but
But
that's
by
one example.
token, you mean like
Rewards, anything, rewards, ownership of your personal AI, right?
oh yeah,
Whatever.
yeah, yeah. So right now we are only thinking about the network token, the PIN token.
Hmm.
We haven't been thinking about like whether these agents are going to have like their own
I see.
currencies. I think it's a bit premature for that, because like if you will, like depending on the applications that emerge, there can be different like economic models there. Yeah,
I
so
see.
right now the focus.
In your case, it's very simple. You are thinking of it like some kind of a personal agent marketplace where people want some features of this agent, and token enables that.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes
Yeah, I
sense.
think
Makes sense.
we try to push a little bit further with our network token, that we are thinking, okay, we actually do not distribute the token in the way that measured by the number of the data or like the types of data, right? I think in reality, what we really care is how much your AI knows you better. And we want to measure the improvement on like how much your data like helps your AI to know you better. And we designed this concept of God node. And basically, like we design like a GRE test, but to your personal AI as a assistant who wants to apply jobs for you, and like ask this 500 question, like how much do you know your boss? And then it's like if you like your personal assistant really care about you and have been loyal servant for you for a long time and memorize all your past behavior, it will be like a very good loyal servant to you, so that saves a lot of the effort that you give out your context to the like any kind of external service, right? Our mental model is like a very loyal executive assistant, and it is in charge of talking to the outside world to help you buy your grocery, help you even like allocate your money and do all these things. That's currently where we are. But on the long run, I'm also thinking we want to be an ecosystem potentially where other agents that are tokenized can build on us. Today, my thesis is the link between the today's like AI meme coin token with the AI agent that can launch meme coin is more like the relation of a Twitter KOL and the Twitter coin. In some sense, like Trump is a very successful, probably one of the most successful Twitter like KOL, and Trump has like a very powerful Trump token because of the attention he is able to attract. Similarly, I think AIXBT is like attracting people that want to know like meme coin alphas, and say, for example, those fun bot like I don't know, Luna, or even I think even AICZ at some perspective is like the founder like Sean and the AI that tweets and talk to people, all like a truth terminal, right? It's like together they were working as the CMO of this small token project, and basically attracting attention for the token. That's my current thesis of how this works. So if you think one step further, it's like now it's pure marketing, right? Because it's pure attention attracting. But when you attract attention, the next step is, can you have retention, right? Can you provide a user to your provide a utility to your user so that they actually benefit from this, so they come back and they continuously come back and they really need it. I think this is something that we need to figure out with the token, so that the token is an integral part of how people can actually leverage their AI agent token to make their AI agent more useful. I think in investing, this is not. I think the most naive way is probably do something similar to Ecina, right? Like, okay, you have an AI, that AI creates a trading strategy, and the trading strategy is running in somewhere, and then you have like Ecina style, like a synthetic stablecoin, and behind the synthetic stablecoin, you pair it with a DAO, and that DAO, like return come from this AI agent, maybe like market making in some places. That could be a simple meta I can think of that actually have the flywheel.
Maybe generalizing this case, I think in the future, where like these AIs are really productive asset that like they produce, they generate some value like in the economy. Like in that future, it feels to me that tokenization will be natural, right? It's like, okay, it's a productive asset, you tokenize it and can have shared ownership. And I think in that future, like the kind of good scenario is that somehow like the ownership of like these different services gets traded to like personal AIs or like humans whenever they interact with them. But yeah, it feels early today, right? Because there is not too much production of and utility generated.
Yeah. But definitely exciting things.
Yep. So Bill, I think we can wrap up probably.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks so much for attending our like a podcast, and we'll have more cool people coming. Yeah, thanks so much, Himanshu, for coming, and yeah, it's really intellectual discussions. Do you have any last word you want to share? Actually, yeah, let me add this one thing. Each of us should add a contrarian prediction for the next year. That it's like yeah, other people not likely agree.
For the next year?
Yeah, for 2025, what's your most contrarian view?
I don't know if it's contrarian or not, but I think this like crazy like people have crazy hopes for this year with the Trump administration, and nothing is contrarian. Everything people are expecting, you know. I think everyone is looking forward to very forward-looking regulation, and maybe this complex setup which people do and the language which people use to navigate regulation will become much simpler, and we'll have this sort of this SEC thing about is it a security or not. Maybe that becomes easier and no one has to hold your ear with hand around the head and all that. It will, maybe it will simplify. I don't think there's anything contrary I'm saying. I'm just looking forward to what's going to happen 25 in terms of regulation. I think that's something exciting I'm looking forward to. But while you say, maybe I'll think of my contrarian prediction.
Yeah, mine. Let's see. I'm not sure if contrarian. It's a bit optimistic, maybe, but yeah, definitely. Like, especially like most of our team is based in the US. Like, we feel the wind of change here. So like, there is definitely hope that like things will become like easier to build. Maybe like one contrarian view is that like I feel that especially for the AI projects in crypto. I feel that even though there is this trend that like these AI memes are like growing and there is so many like being launched, I feel that maybe one contrarian thing is that 90% of those, if they don't reach some type of like utility generation, will kind of like fade. And then the only ones that will really remain are the ones that like are actually being able to get connected to real services. So I mean, this is kind of like optimistic because that's the direction we're pushing with PIN. But I feel that like I call this contrarian because like it seems that the environment is going to be deregulated and potentially like anything is possible. But the reality is that like in the past few years, the projects that were hindered the most were the ones that were trying to build actual technology on blockchain, right? And that's why we end up in this cycle where the only thing possible to do is meme coins, and that's why we saw this explosion. So the contrarian part is that like deregulation or like some clarity of regulation may actually lead to emergence of like legit innovation and project. I'm very much looking forward for that.
I have mine now, but I'll go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'll start with mine. So my contrarian will is I think previous years there is like a triangle, right? There is kind of compute, there is the talent, and there is the data. Previously, everybody like in stock market and everything is thinking, okay, compute is really the dominating factor. Let's do scaling law, and like Richard Sutton has kind of bitter lesson and stuff. But I feel like truly this 2025, we really see the bottleneck on the other two fronts. I think compute, we have like really understand it well on how to scale it. And now even like I think DeepSeek, right, it's kind of blocked on compute, so they really push on the talent. And it's more like I would say technical heroism. Like there's like a single small team of like heroes that work as almost like the Avengers and like work in the dark for years and then build this innovative engineer excellence plus innovation technology that actually like break out, right? I think that piece we will wait to see, but this kind of like a sparkle of the most talented human beings pushing the frontier and most failed, occasionally one or two sparkle and something breakthrough will happen hopefully this year, but in the next 3 years. For example, we don't have like a really good vision foundation model yet, not even to mention like robotic foundation. People are fundraising about it, but I think it's all pretty far. Today, we only have one approaches, which is like the pipeline of like SFT, RLHF, now finally like RL with COT, but it's still a pretty narrow pipe of like how to improve a model, and the fundamental architecture is still kind of like a sequence model, auto-regressive sequence model, even with the new DeepSeek like innovation. Still, the similar things that I have saw as the big paradigm innovation, like when it's like 2016, people are innovating transformers, right? I feel like that paradigm is the current paradigm and it hasn't changed, right? Before that, it's like a ConvNets and the recurrent nets that is starting from the 80s. It took like 30 years for people to find the next thing, which is transformer based and the sequence model. I think we are waiting for that. That's more like we are waiting for heroes. And all our researchers might have the chance, but it's extremely low, right? Like if we are not in the right lab or right environment, we probably just like build a good business that have successful outcome, but it's really hard to actually change humanity that way. And then it's data. Data side, I think every one of us have a chance to actually make major contribution because as I was saying, the fossil field is kind of burned out, right? I think the public data is gone. Every model has consumed most of the public data. Now we're moving to the frontier of like, I think, at least with PIN AI, our thesis is the next deep underground fossil field is people's past internet behavior. That's like already existed and is like generating every day on the internet, on different places, and the way to unlock the value is to aggregate those together. But then what's next step? There is so much more in people's mind, right? In people's brain, especially if you look at the human, there is an efficient frontier, a lot of like top expert in each domain, and they have so much insight in their brain that is not even on their phone and is not even being reached today. I think that's the frontiers. Yeah. So in summary, I think compute will be commoditized. Algorithm will only see kind of spikes, right? It's kind of like a step function or step, then like a giant innovation, then step function, giant innovation. Most of the research paper is probably noise in the middle to wait for that sparkle of like the major step function. And then I think data is a clear like a slope that we can push, and it will get better, better, better. And then one good startup find a new flywheel, and the slope just get better. But overall, as human races, I think that's how I view how we push AI.
So new architectures. You are saying that some breakthrough architectures are going to come.
Yeah. I think that's bound to come, especially in visual space. I think current things are not that natural, right?
Right. Yeah, related to yours, but so the two contrarian views related to each other. Both are sort of my pet peeves these days. First one is that I think value accrual will happen in models. So people somehow started saying application. Dime a dozen. So when people say application, they're not talking about AI agents. They're actually talking about how distribution gets captured through applications, how network effect gets captured. It's nothing to do with AI at all. It's just that, okay, applications always capture distribution and networking effect which comes with it. I think that the actual value accrual will happen in model if, and this is what we want to do, if one can capture the network effect in models. If people start thinking of which model I'm using, if this question enters their head, which is our job to do, it's a very important question. We can discuss another time. Like we all agree already.
Next
But
one.
that's immediately where the value accrual will happen. So no, not application, models. Model is where the value accrual happens. Okay, that's first contrarian view I'm taking. Of course, I'm betting my prime time on it. Second contrarian view. This is pissing me off from last week. This market pundits saying that compute is overrated, dead, and compute demand will not be high. No, it will be damn high, man. Doesn't matter what DeepSeek does. Everybody wants. I want 32 8 H100 things cluster today, and tomorrow, if you ask me, I was 64. Okay, everyone wants more. Everybody wants more. This compute hunger is just immense. It will just grow. So this is a stupid thing to say that because a DeepSeek model came, it proved something, and compute demand will go. If it makes it simpler, then every damn company in the world wants it.
It actually accelerates it because now everyone can have access to like better models. Yep.
Yeah, few people wanted $100 million worth of compute versus everybody wanted $5 million worth of compute, right? Like, come on. And so compute demand is just going to blow up. So stupid Wall Street, I don't care what they say.
Yeah, actually, as intelligence improve, the models will be application themselves. Like we don't need as many like application in the Web 2 sense.
Exactly. That's the point, that applications which you're trying to solve by some prompting and some very delicate stuff which breaks down at one push, that's just because models have not gone there, and they will go there, and then application is nothing.
Yeah. All right, I think on this note we can conclude. Thanks Himanshu for joining us. It was a very fun conversation. And,
yes, thanks so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Let's wait a little bit.